much more than I can see. So much that I can become. That's why I reach out for the sun. I see my possibility. Just hope something I'm healing me. Nothing but green, nothing but me. I'm looking for the down the track. To the hell, I won't look back. See my possibility.
Alhamdulillah. Wa bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. And we are fully loaded.
Yay.
We are fully loaded. Do I have you muted? Are you muted? I want to hear your blog talk. Oh, no. My bad. Okay, that was what I did last time. All right.
Okay.
Holla at your dad. I started saying holla at your boy.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think the old man finally got it figured out. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
At least I'm not hearing no echoes on my side, but your voice is
I'm
coming
good.
through.
I presume I'm no echo here.
Mm-hmm. All right, Allahu Akbar.
I can hear fine.
All right. I just had a thought. I know among your many. First, let me say, welcome back to you. We the audience, we missed you for 2 weeks. Alhamdulillah. Yes. So it's wonderful to have you back. I didn't bake the cake or bring out the balloons, but they are all in the space, right?
Yes.
So knowing your many talents, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. There's so much I could in the best way boast on you so much right now, but I'm not gonna go all what you got surfy.
I feel it. I already know it. It's boo.
And how about you got me? Okay. So here's a thought that I had, right? So we played, that beautiful song, Possibilities, then Hanuna Farid, who is the artist on that with Hijra. But I know that that there's music out there that shares, and Brother William, I got you. William Kareem, I'm with you, brother. Sound art, I got that. But for convenience, I will continue to use music sometime. I respect that. I respect that move about the word music. I get it. But now moving past that, the idea, I know that sound artists who share our values and our vision, and their lyrics complement what we are about and where we're trying to go. So I'm telling you in the public that, you got to hit me with some of that so I can put it in my jukebox.
Absolutely.
So that when we kick off some of our broadcasts, I want to kick it off with tell them about something they don't know. You understand?
Okay.
And then you can, you can drop some of the signs in terms of it's like, okay, this is what you might not understand about these lyrics here. Okay.
Sure.
And we're gonna wind up doing. There's certain things happening with me and poetry right now. I'm not about to write it or drop no bars, but the point is that poetry is a deep thing. It's a very deep thing. So we're gonna have to get to that too. Okay, so I'm gonna back up, get out of your way, and let you bring what you brought in your truck. so you can back it up and unload and unload.
All
All right.
right. I'll
All
take it.
right.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Oh, wrong person. Hold on. I'm trying to see you, not me. All right.
We are on. Okay, good. Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to this wonderful beginning of a new week, an opportunity for us to talk about wealth creation, right? I feel that this topic, in light of what you listened to in the recording, there was a number of things that stood out for me. But when we started, when we do our check-in, myself and the imam, it was the idea around abundance as our birthright. What I didn't know, even after listening to the recording, is that that quote was made in the midst of their conversation. So it helped me to recognize that we were we were aligned with the right idea of this conversation of abundance as a birthright. This idea of abundance and everything you need, you have, right? And that Allah is abundant. Like Allah does not run out. Allah does not run out of the resources that we have access to. Like it is constant. It is there. It is available to us, right? And in this availability, it allows us the opportunity to live a full life. The first task is always in identifying our definition of abundance, because that's going to always structure how we interact with the idea, the energy of abundance, because there's an energy of abundance. So like right now, I'm sitting in my apartment and I have my fan on, I have my window open. I love, fresh air, breeze, right? If there was a lack of air available, like I have an abundance of breeze and air and wind coming through my living space, and in having access to that it's not going to stop. Even if I turn the electricity off that's pushing the air that much more, it's still available to me, right? So I'm wealthy. Okay, so I am operating with wealth. What I need to feel comfortable is accessible to me, right? So this idea of abundance as our birthright, we enter the world with everything that we need. We enter the world, if we are blessed with parents, or we look at our young people that have been who are first and second generation, that the moment that we come earthside, the first thing that we receive, inshallah, is the iqama in our ear, to immediately settle the body to understand that, okay, they know you're good, right? And so we have access to that spiritual resource the moment we arrive, right? We have access to the breast as the source of nutrients for the baby as well. But even prior to that, your entire housing for the 9-10 months that you're being carried, all of the resources are there by way of the vehicle, the vessel that brings your life forward. So this birthright of abundance is from the gate, right? And if we want to even just, keep going back even further, that prior to even that part of us, the things that we need, Allah gave us the angels in service. Like, He gave us that breath and that ruh. And then from that, we now have access to the elements, the energy, the angels being of service to support the needs that we need to be met on this journey, on this earthly life journey, right? So we are never in a space of not having what we need. Never. Like, never, right? So identifying how we feel about abundance. And I had a conversation today with a client about money is easy. Like, if we really think about this idea of money, money is easy, right? The abundance part, depending on how we identify the abundance and how we get the resources necessary to live the life that we want, it only becomes difficult because we are challenged with the how. Like, well, how are we going to get this thing? And that is a part of the work and education and the inspiration. All of those things are a part of the process, right? So identifying what we identify as success, what we identify as wealth, what we identify as abundance will help us to clear out the clutter in our mind about, well, what do we have access to? When in actuality, the example is in our very birth. You have access to everything, right? And in many ways, we start to forget what it is that we have access to. So what do we want? What do we want to achieve? What is it that we want to build? And what is that thing that you showed up here earthside with? Because what it is that you have is going to feed you. Your knowledge base, your level of understanding and creativity, your uniqueness that you bring to the marketplace or to life, period, right? What I appreciate the most, like even with the recording of what we have shared, is that this idea of, that a lot is transactional. And what I mean by transactional is, if you do this, I'll give you that, right? And I'm sure the Imam can give us some clarity around that language when he joins us again. That this idea will give us great anxiety. Like, I can't help but to think of any other word other than anxiety, right? And it will challenge you to think, well, am I doing a thing wrong, or am I messing up, right? And the fact that your heart wants the goodness, wants to be right, wants to make the right decision, is the mercy and the love. Like, the desire for good is a winning space to be in. Like, that's a winning space to be in a space where you're not giving up, to be in a space that you recognize the striving for excellence, to recognize the striving to show up as your best self, as your highest self, is a mercy, right? So that's the continual reminder that the presence of Allah is constant. Like, it does not change. Like, the time to get nervous is when you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm good. This is all I'm gonna do. Like, all right, we're done here. That's when you should get nervous, right? Because we know that this journey is constant, it's ongoing. We get up and the next day is about, how do I get another chance to do this life thing again? We wake up in the morning, it's like, first thing, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, like, I've returned to my body, right? And that is the moment when you tap into oneself to say, okay, I have another opportunity to get this right, to be better than I was yesterday, to impact someone else's life in some way, to worship again, another day closer to another Ramadan, an opportunity to read more Quran and learn this language, an opportunity to better understand a concept that I didn't understand yesterday, an opportunity to show the people that I love that I value them, an opportunity to create more memories, right? So these are all a new opportunity, right? And this abundance, when I say this abundance is your birthright, you have to water those relationships, right? You have to nurture those relationships because those are all gifts and resources, you know. So for me, I can't help but to think about my resource of my family, the resource of my friendships, right? And these resources, they help me to understand who I am in existence of, you know, the universe. I am a universe that I've created, but then there's multiverses, right? Those multiverses are my mom, my siblings, my child, and I get to visit these different universes and learn something different and more about myself, right? And they're a resource for me. And in this exchange of a resource, I'm also a resource for them. So this constant flow of having access to the beautiful loans that Allah has given us shows that abundance is our birthright. And I say that to also say that the other universes that experience your knowledge, other universes, meaning human beings, that experience what you know and what you have to offer, um, they also replenish you in the exchange of currency, be it money, be it joy, be it, you know, clientele or people who want to experience the service that you have to offer that you were inspired with and the work that it takes to keep that nurtured. People will keep coming back to your universal marketplace of what it is that you offer. This space, this platform is a marketplace of knowledge. You are exchanging your time as a means of currency to receive the knowledge, the understanding that will open up a whole nother part of yourself, to give you something more to offer to life, to your own life, and to the life of those you love and those around you. A new concept will be opened up for you. A new idea will be opened up to you as a result of sharing this space, right? So once we identify what is the abundance that we want, or that we have, we start to recognize what belongs to us, right? And when we limit, the limited thought is not ours. We were not born with limited thought. We learned limited thought. Observe children. I just love, when I tell you, I love observing my nieces and nephews. I love observing babies and children because the level of richness and authentic, love and joy that they arrive with, we can learn a lot from it. And the first thing, I'm a big advocate of therapy. First thing that any therapist worth their salt is going to tell you to do the inner child work, because somewhere in our childhood something was shifted that structured how we interact with any and everything and everybody, all from our experience as children. So when we look at children, right, I'm not an advocate for forcing children to share a thing. Call me crazy. I'm not that advocate, right? I am the auntie that will be like, okay, let them have their turn. I'm not going to press the share, 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 share. That's not something that they do. Now, if there is an experience that they can share with the toy, that's very different than saying, this thing that gave me joy, you're telling me to give it to you. That's next level thinking. That's really next level thinking, because now I have to compromise my joy. I'm not thinking about this other person right now. It's like, my joy is mine right now. I need to have this, right? Now, if there's a way to create the experience and the exchange where if I'm playing with a ball and I have an experience to have more fun by sharing this ball with someone, and now the experience is expanded, as opposed to just give that person the ball and now I have nothing to play with, as opposed to showing like, okay, let's play catch. Or, okay, let's play kickball. And now we've got a communal experience with this ball that I was playing with by myself. And yes, I was happy, but now I have a ball and a resource, someone to exchange with. And now we have an experience with this ball, right? And it's made it has widened our universal experience with each other, because now we have figured out a way to share that. Whereas when children are tired, all bets are off. I'm tired. Like, I'm ready to lay down. I'm hungry. I'm ready to do this. I need someone to comfort me. It's time for a bottle or a Patsy or whatever the case may be. That in the midst of doing that, the resources via the auntie, uncle, brother, sister, mommy, daddy is right there immediately, right? Our life works like that. Allah works like that for us, right? When I think about challenging times that I have worked through or come through, this idea of difficulty and ease, right? That sometimes we'll be so caught in our emotions of a particular thing, we don't recognize that the very solution to the problem that you're having is embedded in the problem. The solution is right there, but we have to allow ourselves to calm our waters, calm our emotions, to see what the solution is, to work through it, right? And this alignment of getting to the solution can be very tricky, because we know somewhere in there somebody may not be happy with the solution that we come up with, right? I'm one thing that you'll learn about me is that I have no problem with sharing my personal stories in the midst of this, so that you can understand that what I'm talking about is not something that I'm just kind of like pulling out of the air, right? So I'm making a shift in my hair business. And I needed to make this shift so that, first, for my mental stability, because it was taking so much time to schedule appointments, look at the calendar. People call me. I would spend at least 25% of my day would be on fitting people into the calendar, seeing what dates are available, and we're texting each other back and forth like, okay, well, what date do you have? I'm available at this time and that time and that. And I realized it was becoming draining on me, to every time my phone is ding, 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 ding. And I said, okay, I need a solution for this problem. And so I had to sit back and I had to ask myself, what did I want? I wanted ease. I wanted this schedule to be easy. I wanted to not spend so much time on the phone trying to schedule clients. How do I do that? Right? And so I knew that I had to create a set schedule. This is how many time slots I have per day. These are the days that I will be doing hair, period. Like, I can't adjust or change that. If I'm doing hair Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, someone can't call me and be like, so, hey, I'm available Wednesday at 12 noon. That's great that you're available Wednesday at 12 noon. I'm available Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, 7, 11, 3, and 6. This is what I have Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But I understand what you're saying, but the reality is this is what the schedule is. And we will have this tendency especially as service provider or as business owners, we want to honor our customer. We want to honor our client, right? And so you make the adjustment as best you can, because it's not that I'm saying there's only one time slot. There's 12 time slots available. Choose one of the 12. It's not like there's only 3 time slots and you only get 3 choices. You have 12 choices. And I had to stick to that, because now when you come to me and experience my service, you're going to get 100% of me. You're not going to get the tired me. You're not going to get the rushing me. You're not going to get the exhausted me. You're going to get the smile at the door. I don't have to convince myself that it's time to work. I know this is what my schedule is. My body's energy is prepared to receive you, and this is what we have. And so now you can show up and you won't have to feel the tension of my mental state going, I really don't feel like doing this today. I'm really not emotionally available. No, I am fully available. And the experience will feel that much richer because this is what I chose to do for the betterment of myself and the betterment of your experience. So sometimes we keep adjusting certain things that we miss out on this abundance of time and self-care, that we're not serving from an empty cup. We show up full each and every time because we honored what we have access to and the resources that we have available to give to our marketplace, our family, ourselves. And what better way to honor Allah than to honor this vessel that worships Allah regularly every day? Like, the most beautiful maintenance of a masjid is the maintenance of one's self, right? And that part of it, we move different. And when someone tells me no, they're not available to do stuff, I'm applauding. I love to hear that. I love to know that you're honoring your first masjid first, because now when you're available and you're ready, you are showing up in a way that is full, in a way that is not exhausted and burnt out. Like, I get to experience the wholeness of who you are because we show up abundant. And who wants to drink from a bucket that has holes at the bottom? No, it's like now you have a whole lot available to do what needs to be done. And we're not exhausted in our worship, in our service, in how it is that we show up. So I think that this understanding of abundance is to see yourself as a source first. To see yourself as a source first. And that when you come together and work with people who are on full, who have all of their components available, think of how beautiful the community moves. That we're not the people who don't feel valued. We're not working with community members who don't feel honored in the space, because they have honored their vessel fully and they show up with the richness, and everyone gets the best of the best, the richness and the fullness of what they have to offer, because they have honored the abundance that they bring to the communal space and the abundance that Allah has given them naturally and inherently as an individual. So I think I am down to my last minute, and I look forward to having more conversation and exchange with those that are listening and being a part of this conversation, and understand that the moment you were born, everything and anything that you've ever needed is there and accessible. And it is important for us to identify it and define it based on what Allah shows us as abundant, that it is your birthright. Alhamdulillah.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Yes. So, Alhamdulillah. All unqualified praises due to Allah.
All
that
of it.
being
Yes.
That being said, it's like I think about what a blessing. It'd be a longer story. How short can I make it? It's about things that you pray for, and things that you think you're praying for, and then you already have them.
Yes.
Like,
no, that's the big deal. Yes.
Yeah, it is. Now, here I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I think about your spirit, your attitude, your openness, your availability, your commitment, your conviction. And I said, that's what we're looking for, right? That's what we're looking for, right? And you think people who, mashallah, Allahu alam, there's no boast. People who do what I do, and I really see myself as a connector between past knowledge, present knowledge, and the future. And so such people are always looking for someone who can take more of this load that I have, who can take more of this, who can. But you got to be able to understand it. You got to be able to grasp it. You can't just be walking around with jewels and you don't even know what the proper
Yes.
setting is. So let me get
Mhm.
off of that. And open up the so you're a jewel and you understand the value of those things, and
Alhamdulillah.
so the inheritance is being received by such as yourself. And I have a whole lot more to say about that, but
Ameen.
and I will later, inshallah. All right, but right
Inshallah.
now, before we move too far away from her comments, anybody on Blog Talk, you have a comment, question, feedback that you want to give to my co-host, mashallah, you can do that. Push one on your phone, and I'll open it up for that possibility. I can also see the chat side of our StreamYard broadcast simultaneous on Facebook, actually two Facebook pages and the YouTube. So, but this offer has a limited time on it, as my co-host knows. It's a limited time offer for you to
Yeah.
to ask some questions, make some comment. Beyond that, then we're gonna move on down the road like the whiz. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. So I know you're going to be riding along with me as we
Yes.
continue. Uh, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up from. Okay, so everybody else, Blog Talk and Facebook, YouTube. I'm not looking at comments, so I'm not ignoring you if you say something. I'm just not looking at that part of the page. The fundamental theme today that Camila spoke to, part of it, the idea of your the abundance, the inheritance, and the abundance, and your right to that abundance, and your birthright of that abundance. That and so I'm going to follow on with that. Uh, because inside the speaker, some of you who are joining us later, meaning coming on with Facebook and YouTube, if you come on there and you weren't on Blog Talk, then you didn't hear the first half of it. The first half of the audio that we played, not her and I, Camila and I, we play an audio. We played about a half hour of an audio, and Lecrae is the one being interviewed. Was his name, Lecrae, and it was from episode 32 of In the Vault. You got to look for that if you want to. That's fine. And it's really a really beautiful thing because Earn Your Leisure. Earn Your Leisure is the main platform under which the In the Vault, flies their flag, and so they both do interviews. That we listened to one where Shaq was being interviewed by the primary Earn Your Leisure people, and so this other party is another party who does their broadcast under the EYL, let's call it brand or label. All right, so. Looking at what he said, and the title was, it had to do with faith, right? It had to do with faith and the idea of being able to advance and become wealthy, though that was not and is not his primary focus. And really, when you listen to people who really do become wealthy, they'll tell you, you can believe them or not. It's to your loss if you don't believe them. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. And when you understand that it's not about the money, then you stop chasing money. There's actually one of the David Never Sleeps pieces. And I think it's the one that I am Ash Cash, who is the interviewer on the other one. When he does an interview with David, his interview, that's the title of the interview itself. Is Stop Chasing Money. Right? Stop chasing money. Now, what I have found with regard to most of them is that what they have is they have a system value. Like we listen to 19 Keys. I'm just pointing out because I'm also giving you all a heads up as to, you know what, this is all I need to do. What I'm about to tell you, all I need to do Just listen to whoever talks about, mashallah, this is no boast, and I make dua to Allah, put the inshallah on it and everything. So won't blow up on me, right? But the point is that all we have to do, I don't care. I don't care. It can be anybody. It doesn't matter. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Raoul Paul. I'm throwing out some other names, right? And any of these platforms that we're talking about that have black millionaires, we can listen to any of them. And all we gotta do is just sit there and just say, oh, okay, yeah. And Islam says this. He says blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, you know what? And Islam says that. And blah, blah, blah. Who am I listening to? Any of them. Any of them. This is no boast. Any of them. It's like, because if they are successful, they will be successful upon the application, implementation, understanding of some principle that is a part of our way of life, al-Islam. Any of them, doesn't matter. Any of them. And so I begin my comment in conjunction with that to state this as a principle, because all of that, this particular approach is what's going to make the rest of my life for this wealth creation and preservation broadcast just so much easier. It's just, okay, choose a theme, look at who you want to highlight, play that, abstract from what they say, how Islam already says that. Now, we're not hating it. When I get to the point here, in fact, that's what I'm going to do. Let me read my statement and then go exactly where I'm going to go to understand that statement is, hey, look, that's the wise thing to do. Let's read this statement first. It said, I'm saying to you that his best values, when you listen to the interview, and now I'm telling you, this is about any of them. You choose anyone who is a model of success in that field, really any field, you will find that this is true for us relative to them, us being Muslims who believe in Allah and Muhammad. So his best values are only a subset of our deen. It's only a subset of our deen. And I put parenthetically, which is a complete philosophy. This, we say deen, but deen also includes a complete philosophy, brothers and sisters. Those are, mashallah, alhamdulillah, rahimahullah, Imam al-Ghazali, alhamdulillah, Ihya Ulumuddin, and Ulumul Quran, and all of this, beautiful, wonderful, alhamdulillah. I have, I own copies. I haven't read through the whole thing, but I mean, for years and years and years, I have that. And so the whole idea, some of you have bought into the idea that even to use the word philosophy, and I recognize the problems with it. I recognize the problem with the word. Listen, let me help you out, because you may not even know this, even though you might be chomping at the bit. The one who I have in my mind right now, philosophy, right? So let's take the consonants out of philosophy. Fa, lam, sin, fa, ya. That's transliteration. Fa, lam, sin, fa, ya. I don't have to be right because this wasn't in the original plan. But so if you take that, fa, lam, sin, fa, ya, what could you read out of that? Falsify. Falsify. Now you thank Imam W.D. Muhammad for that, because I know you never heard that before. Falsify. If you heard it from me sometime in one of the messages that said, this is no boast. But I'm saying, how do you get to that? How do you come to those kind of conclusions and expressions? Imam Wadafuddin Muhammad. Okay, look at it. Okay, now, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's only to confirm to those of you who may have some doubts about my competency for and correctness for even talking about Islam has a philosophy. There are those who take pride that Islam doesn't have philosophy. Islam is not a philosophy. Okay, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, very good. But Imam Wadafuddin Muhammad, when he defines philosophy, it said wisdom for living. Okay, drop everybody else's dictionary when you use that word wisdom for living. يعلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. You better hurry up and understand. Hikmah is philosophy. Hikmah is philosophy, and philosophy is hikmah, barring my caveat, disclaimer, proviso, however you want to call it, when we're about the falsify. Yeah, a lot of people falsify a lot of things in philosophy, and there's a lot of false philosophies, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about al-Islam. I'm talking about al-Islam as deen, right? And so when you understand al-Islam as deen, then you understand that it is a complete philosophy. In the language of Imam Waziri Muhammad, that means a wisdom for living. Al-Islam has a complete doctrine for the wisdom of living. That's what hikmah actually is, right? Okay, let me move on, finish that. So it's like their best values, I'm talking about the most successful people in the world, their best values are only, if they're not Muslim believers and successful in this manner, their best values are only a subset of our deen, which is a complete philosophy, a complete set of divine values. You understand? When you listen to we're talking about wealth creation, so let's just go ahead, listen to the wealthiest of the wealthy. When they have those conversations and people in the interview asking those questions, and how did you get started, and what drives you, and what helps you, and what protects you, and what were your biggest lessons, all those common interview questions, then listen to their answers, and I guarantee you, you can find Islam already answers that. And we're not competing with them in that respect. It's not like, yeah, don't listen to them. Islam already got that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you look at it, you're successful, good. So you are social proof for me that value that Allah revealed in the Quran as a part of his perfect favor and gave us as a practice in the religion and as a value in our way of life, al-Islam, you just are giving me evidence that, hey, it works. You should try it. Okay. So their best values are only a subset of our way of life, which is a complete philosophy, a complete set of divine values tied to the natural laws of creation. Y'all better hurry up and get with a clear understanding. .org, whatever it is. Camila will tell you more about it. Because I can just feel so much, because it's the details of things like this that's where we're going to offload that's where we're going to offload that. And wallahi, I'm going to tell you, brothers, I might be out of my lane in this respect, because the business end on that, I leave that over to the team. But I will say this, because it's important for as far as wealth is concerned. I want you to understand this. Listen, Allah pays well. Did you hear what I said? Allah pays well, and pay is not always in dollars and cents, right? It's always in cents, but it's not always in dollars and cents. So Allah pays well. So it's like, no, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about respecting the value of what you get. Let me stop. That's going to be it for my part of that. So the point is that when you understand that our deen, our way of life, and the most successful people, they are succeeding upon a subset of the values that Allah has revealed to us completely. Allah has revealed the whole encyclopedia of values, which when you look at one chapter of it, Steve Jobs is successful on one prime value, or Berkshire Hathaway is successful on another value, and then somebody else is successful on another value. All you gotta do is look at the main value that drives who they are and what they are and what they do, and then you say, oh, that's over there in al-Islam, right? So when you come to al-Islam, you come to that universe that Mahasan talked about. You come to the universe of values that when you connect with that value that is primary for you, and you live out and act that out in the world, then the money is really secondary to the realization of your connection with the sacred value which you embody, which you have been gifted with, and you're supposed to translate that value into usefulness. to the society. When you translate that value into usefulness to the society, yeah, money flows from the society, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he rewards you even more because you did it in service to his plan. You did it in service to his mission for humanity. And I got to tell you again, Allah pays well, but it's not all, and it's not always in money. Let's move on. So I said his best values are only a subset of our deen, and his success is phenomenal upon only a subset of our values. Everyone that I just named, how are they successful? They're successful on a subset, and likely a subset of a subset, because most of those, they will tell you, do you. That's my language. That is not my language. That's Russell Simmons. I don't know, maybe there's an APB out for him, literally, figuratively. Let me stop joking about that. Look, do you, right? That's what most Berkshire Hathaway, his name escaped me right now. Warren Buffett, he said, yeah, I don't mess with what I don't understand. I don't mess. That's why, he kind of hates on crypto and the like. And there are others that do say, Peter Schiff, he wants to stick with his goal and, don't believe in crypto, what have you. So it's like, and each one of it is successful in their own way based on sticking with what they know, right? All right. So then that means that none of them are doing all things for all people, but each of them are remarkably successful because of the value that they have embraced and that they are living out and applying in the world. And so here every Muslim is in possession of the complete set of divine values tied to the natural laws of creation. How in the world? Why in the world wouldn't a Muslim believer be successful by all definitions of the term, And listen what he said. I got to get to something about innovation and imitation, but I'm gonna stay with the flow for now. He pointed out, he said, how did you come into whatever. The question was asked about his success and how you make that translation, how you make the translation or the combination or the balancing between your faith and rap, And rap is not the thing that he focuses on for his making money. He's made his name for that, but he's doing real estate and doing so many other things. The person that was being interviewed and so many other things. So the point is, he talked about the motivation for what he did and does in the context of helping the community, helping society. It started with his mother. His mother would have breakfast being fed by the Black Panthers, right? So the Black Panthers breakfast program and whatever their 10-point program was designed to help the community, blah, blah, blah. So these were good people trying to help make something happen in the community. But he also drew the parallels. He said, he talked about Bumpy Johnson, and I guess that Bumpy Johnson must be that Godfather character that, Forrest Whitaker, I think, I don't know. Seems to me I've heard the name before. So Bumpy Johnson is a gangster that did good in the hood. We had a guy with that kind of reputation, Felix Mitchell, out here. It's like, it depends on who's doing the conversation. But the point is that there are some gangsters that do good. You get that whole Godfather model that's been set up. I'm talking about the Marlon Brando Godfather model. You do, I'll do this for you, but one day you're going to have to do a favor for me, blah, blah, blah. Well, so the Bumpy Johnson is that kind of Godfather of Harlem character, and Nipsey Hussle, and we say God rest his soul, and Rahim Allahole, I'll say, and here it's hey, the man does good, reputation, etc. The other stuff, that's it. We don't consign people to hell just because. If there's some good, there's reputation, may Allah forgive them, have mercy on them, and grant them the paradise. And Allahu Alam, Allah is the one that will decide. But that being said, Lecrae in that interview, he said, well, okay, well, look, Bumpy Johnson, he was a gangster. Did he do some good in the hood? Yes, he did some good in the hood. He said, well, then how much more good should a Martin Luther King Jr. do as a leading Christian pastor, right? So it's like, if you are a better person, morally speaking, spiritually speaking, then you should be doing more good in the community than the people who do a mixed bag of things, good and bad. And he said the same thing about Nipsey Hussle. And so he compared himself and he says, like, if Nipsey Hussle did good in the hood, helping the hood, okay, well, what should Lecrae be doing? It's like, if you're supposed to be a believer in the Most High and you're supposed to be doing good and you're about helping the people, okay, can someone who has a reputation as a gangster, can they do more to benefit the hood, or can you do more to benefit the hood with the connection that you have with your Lord, right? Okay, so Muslims should ask themselves the same question. It's a good question. It's like, can the masjid do more than a church? Okay, well, compete. That's what motivated him, as an example. So that's a model of competition, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, speaking of those that complete set of divine values. He says, fastabiqul khairat, strive after what is most excellent. Strive after what's most excellent and take the best thereof. Quran tells us that. And so this brings my attention to the issue of innovation and imitation. This is one of the things that he showed. All I'm talking about are the fact of these values that people succeed upon, a subset of our values. And when we look at what crowns their success or what motivates or drives their success as a value, then they say, well, hey, that's our value, and they're doing more with it and through it. They're getting more social proof and evidence of how it works in the world than we are. So that's something to say, okay, well, then we need to straighten that up. So as Prophet Muhammad, for example, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to Medina, and of course this was making hijrah, so it became Medina when he got there. Any case, on the day of Ashura, what we know as the day of Ashura now, was a day that the Jews would be fasting. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't know, what is this? Why are you fasting? He said, well, we're fasting to commemorate the Exodus. This is a day that memorializes our exodus from our bondage to Pharaoh. And the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, we're closer to Musa than you, or we have more of a right to it than you. He didn't say y'all stop. No, he just said we're going to get started, because we have more of a right to honor that, respect that, benefit from that than you do. All right. Why? Because we are now the purification of that had been corrupted before the coming of the perfection in the Quran and with the Quran. So what is that? The Prophet sallallahu, and in which direction was the Prophet praying in before the Qibla was changed? He was praying towards Jerusalem, right? But his heart wasn't satisfied with praying toward Jerusalem. And you can read the rest of the story in the Quran, where we see you turning your face to the skies. Now we'll turn your heart. We'll turn you to a Qibla that will please you. All right. But what was the Prophet doing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before that? With qualification, he was imitating the best of what was before him. The best of what was before him, that was what he went with, until Allah corrected it, purified it, and redirected it to another way. Right? So then what replaces Ashura as a formality, we fast. We fast just like they were fasting, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us Ramadan as a fast. That's our fast. Alhamdulillah. That's the fast that we are obligated to as Muslims. Right? But what was the Prophet doing before that? The Prophet was before that, he was imitating what they had. Now here's a qualification on the imitation. Qualification: Muslims have to learn how to adapt more than adopt when it comes to what's going on in the world. Right? When it comes to what's going on in the world, when you see good things going on in the world in all four quarters, right? Good things in education, good things in culture, good things in governance, good things in business. All right. Take the best thereof. That's a value. That's the Quran telling you how to filter what you see. Take the best thereof. And the best is that doesn't contradict what Allah has ordered us against. Whatever Allah has ordered us against, or whatever the Prophet has ordered us against, don't do that. Don't do that. But then there are other things. Omar, for example, radiallahu anhu, Omar, he was the one that established bureaus and administrations. That was not existing in the time of Abu Bakr. That was not existing in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bureaus of administrations, or the administration of this, the bureau of that, except it wasn't existing. And he in that was emulating, and this is a critical thing for as far as the language imitation. I'm using the how can you say, the mnemonic value of imitation versus innovation is useful. So I'll say that because they rhyme, the rhythm pattern, boom. Remember imitation and innovation and versus innovation. But now that we're going deeper now, emulation. Emulation. What is emulation? Emulation is taking the value from someone that you admire, from something that you admire, taking the value of it is more particularly as it relates to a person's behavior, character, personality, temperament, etc. You want to emulate them, right? And emulate means to abstract from their temperament, from their behavior, from their way of being. You want to abstract the best from them and make it a part of yourself, right? This is that isomorphism that we touched on. But this is precisely what the Quran tells us to do. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةً حَسَنَةً. You have in the Messenger of Allah a most excellent model example to follow. So we're supposed to emulate the Prophet. It doesn't mean imitate, because you'll wind up in a costume party. You know that television commercial said, just because someone said this, nothing crazy. You know, after all, it's not a costume party. And then of course she shows up in a costume, right? So look, so emulating the Prophet is not this false imitation of the Prophet so as to dress up and look like what you think the Prophet looked like in the 7th century. MashaAllah. So don't do that. Emulate. All right. So what I'm only trying to point to here is the way to make progress in the world is to adapt, not focusing on adopt. Meaning, okay, how can I? You know, you have an adapter. You have your 2-prong, and it has. Then you got a 3-prong plug, but you got a socket that only has 2. So you need an adapter. So you put the adapter on the end of it. Now you can get some juice from the power source because the adapter links the utility to the source, right? All right. So we have to learn to adapt. So because if you don't adapt it properly, then you're not going to get the power that it's supposed to be delivering for your utilization. All right, so in terms of adapt, not adopt, I bring back a comment that is those of you who are really with me, I'm gonna throw this out here, axiomatic, right? Here's something that's axiomatic for me. Axiomatic is like, it's a given. I walk around with this as an understanding as all the time, because it's so powerful, important, useful, especially in conjunction with what I'm saying right here. Dr. Abdul Hamid Abu Suleiman, explaining the failings of the Islamic scholars of the past, he makes this quote, or he gives this information from his publication Toward an Islamic Theory of International Relations. He said this. He said their education, speaking of the scholars of the past, this is the time between the passing of the Khulafa Rashidin and the time of, well, particularly is like Turkey, but even earlier, that what sent the Muslims into our own dark ages. He said their education lacked the concept of systematic empirical observation, and left them alienated from those specializing in the newly evolving social sciences, with their emphasis on applications and methods, meaning that there was a technology gap developing in the Muslim world which the scholars were supposed to be bridging for their society, getting access to the new knowledge and its new methodologies, and taking them and adapting them to the needs of the people of their time. That's the leadership responsibility all the time. And so failure to do that puts the people dependent on that leadership into a technology gap. And don't just think computers when say technology. The pen that was a quill of a feather, that was technology. The inkwell with a feather, that was technology. So the point is, whenever there's a new way of doing something that can facilitate production and being effective and solving problems in the world, that's technology. And if you don't keep up with that technology, then you fall behind the world that does keep up with that technology, and then they get further and further ahead of you. And that's what happened to the Muslims. That's what he's pointing to. And let me finish this quote to formalize my emphasis. So he goes on, he says, they were unaware of the repercussions. They were unaware of the repercussions of the new knowledge and methods on the composition, interaction, and the organization of society. Nor, they didn't know how this new knowledge was going to impact all these various levels of their own society. They didn't know that. And then another thing they didn't know, another thing they didn't do, they were unable to envision. They didn't even have a vision to be able to see the potential of this new knowledge harnessed to the values, goals, and overall paradigm of Islam. Not only did you not know the knowledge, that's your first mistake. Second mistake is, along with not knowing what even if you did know about it, and you say, oh, poo-poo on all that stuff. So you knew about it, and you say, later for that. Okay, so then you couldn't see how that new technology harnessed to your values and goals and overall paradigm could help you make progress. That's the gap that Muslims are in, by and large, especially Bilalian Muslims. We need to understand the new technology. My own failures, it's like, man, I depend on my daughter, I depend on my daughter-in-law, and so many others who know this technology out there and its many levels, as many uses to make as much progress as we've made thus far. But I'm always reminded, man, you really don't know this technology. You really don't know how these things that are supposed to be vehicles for what you are trying to do as a contributor to the growth of your society and the people that look to you. Is like, man, you need to level up your technology game, because there's certain things that you should know and you should be quick with them. But inshallah, y'all make dua for me. We get to that. So the point is that I need to point out about history, and those of you, any of you who have comments that you want to bring before we close out, we are inshallah going to give you the opportunity to ask questions and make comments and have some feedback before we close out. Now, here, so what we heard from the one being interviewed, Lecrae is his name. What we heard him say is that there are other people that he saw doing things, and he modeled himself in that respect after that. Even when it comes to the music, he said, okay, I'm a Christian, but I don't want to be known or seen as a Christian rapper. I'd rather be seen as a rapper who is Christian, right? And so he said, I like the teaching. I like the doctrine. I felt like church is where I wanted to be once I was exposed to it in a certain way, but he avoids what he called churchianity. And so he had a different way adapting himself to the religion Christianity, which he wants and which he wanted, which he is a part of. But also he was, as he said, he was raised on hip hop, right? And so he had to work out a way to bring those two things together. So when it came to the doctrine, okay, I'm down. I'm with the doctrine, et cetera, et cetera. But music is a part of my life, with all respect for the term. Music is a part of my life. And so when it comes to my particular slice of life and my particular embrace of Christianity in that sense, going all in, I have to in some kind of way be able to bring, quote unquote, my music with all of whatever, with all of the right values that accord with the faith and not against the faith, but accord with the faith. So he saw that the need is, I didn't see what I wanted, that I would like to have, and what I would like to hear. So I said, I'll create it. That's what he did. So I'll create it. So he created a way to adapt for others on the outside wanting to get in the inside of the faith, but he had to find the mechanism, the vehicle that would provide a way for them to be able to connect with the faith that he has and embrace Christianity, and he recognizes and respects Mos Def and Lupe Fiasco, and there, no doubt, there are others we know in the music business. There's a lot of Muslims, but the point is that he was emulating them. Obviously, he's not imitating it. He's emulating them. Okay, well, they're successful, and they're stuck with this, and they stuck with that, and they do. And so he said to himself, and in answer to the interview, he also said that, but we have to keep the standards at the same level. Don't think just because you say you're a Christian that you can come with some, you're lacking so many of the production values, and you expect everybody to embrace it. But you don't have the production value. So you have to keep the levels and standards up. Muslims have to do the same thing. Now, the point to be made here, going back to that rhyme scheme, but I want you to get the principle of it as being more important. Innovation versus imitation, right? Progress in the world of human beings. I'm talking about from the time of learning how to make fire, or the wheel, or a spear, or a bow and arrow, whatever. I mean, take it all the way back. It wasn't a whole tribe that decided how to make a bow and arrow. It wasn't a whole tribe that decided how to make a spear. It wasn't a whole tribe that learned how to make fire the first time. And with that one whose mind it dawned in, it said, "I have made fire," right? That famous, what is the Tom, whatever his name is, Forrest Gump guy. Wills. Look, I know comedians laughing. I don't have a face over there, but so the idea is that those are innovators. Listen. Well, I'm almost done. Do you know the world is advanced more so because of imitation rather than innovation? The world in reality, and there's a lot of science behind what I'm saying. I'm not speaking to it. I'm speaking to its conclusions. The world has advanced as it has advanced because of imitation and innovation, but the world needs more imitation than innovation. How many Steve Jobs are there in the world? So okay, he did it, and now where's the rest of the world at with regard to these whatever smartphones and the like? So the technology comes from the innovators. It's advanced by the imitators, because the imitators have to embrace it, utilize it, and then its utilization becomes iterated more and more and more and more. So certainly in our day and time now, the innovators get the reward if they know how to protect their stuff, the intellectual property rights and all the rest of that. Yeah, that's fine. And that's fine. But the point is that down in the lines of history, Bow and arrows. Okay, there were no bow and arrows at some point down. Somebody invented a bow and arrow. Why? Because we're having a war with some people. Okay, the bow and arrow puts you ahead of the game when it comes to the fight game, right? So it's like, oh, you don't have bow and arrows. Oh man, they're killing us because of the bow and arrows, right? So then somebody finally rips off a bow and arrow. This is my narrative. Somebody steals a bow and arrow off the battlefield, and they take it back to their tribe. And then they re-engineer it, and they say, oh, okay, well, yeah, when I saw them, they was doing this, and this connects to that, and that connects. What's this made of? So they reverse engineer it. Now they got bows and arrows, right? So now that can set up a kind of stalemate, if you will, at some level, until somebody invents something else, like a repeating rifle. And the rest is history. So now I have to say the problem with Muslims, and I know I'm being brief about this, man, Shaitan got us, y'all. When somebody got into our vocabulary mix, no bid'ah. So, yeah, bro, what you saying? You say it ought to be bid'ah? No, that's not the problem. The bid'ah that there's supposed to be none of is innovating the religion. Okay, air quotes. Allah says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. That starts it. All right. Then there's salat. Then there's zakat. Then there's fasting. Then there's hajj. Right. Salat 5 times a day, not 6, not 4. Zuhr prayer. 4 rakahs fard, not 2, not 5, not 3. All right. Dhikr is not mandatory for the salat. Dua after the salat is not mandatory. You can do it, but you can't make it mandatory. Fasting, not in December. Fasting in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. That's Ramadan. And no, we're going to have it in the 8th month. It's too hot. This year is going to be too hot. So let's flip it. Bid'ah. All right. All that's bid'ah. Anything that you do that you believe is going to be more pleasing to God or get God to reply to you in whatever, all that motivation. And so you add these things that the Prophet never modeled for you. He never gave an example for you. He tells you about extra fast you can do if you want to. He told you about sadaqah you can do if you want to. He told you about, umrah that you could do if you want to, but none of those were made fard. And anything else that's done that is not aligned with what has been approved of the Prophet, and you do it in the name of the Iman, you do it in the name of ibadah, and you have no model, you have no example, and you have no support in the Quran and for the Prophet, bid'ah. That's bid'ah. Now, so move that out of the way. And the same thing has happened to us when it comes to riba. The misunderstanding of what riba actually means and how that affects our investment strategies in the world is because of that misunderstanding. The wrong understanding of bid'ah has affected our way of innovating. We stopped innovating. I told you about this before, but the Lever of Riches is a book that covers the history of how wealth was made and talks about these different inventions over time, right? And they talked about great inventions. I think there's a display going around the world, or you can find it online, 1,001 inventions, etc., all of which are tied back to Muslim inventions, right? That's innovation. That's creativity, right? The bid'ah that killed off creativity is what killed our economic growth spirit possibilities, because the world advances on the strength of an innovation, and then that innovation gets iterated, and then the one who did the innovating, creating, they get the rewards from that. Right? But if somebody convinces you, oh, don't try to create nothing, don't try to invent nothing, don't try to do anything new, stick with what's already there, nothing new under the sun, blah, 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 bid'ah. And so they said in the book, for some reason around the 13th century, that is the 5th century Hijra, around figures, for some reason Muslims stopped innovating. This is a non-Muslim publication. He said, for some reason around the 13th century, Muslims stopped innovating. That's when the shaitan got that idea, no bid'ah, and then applied it all the way across the board, took it out of bounds of ibadah and put it over in politics, put it over in or governance, you put it in culture, you put it in education. And that's when we went into our dark ages. And that's when the Renaissance took off. So they were coming into light and we were moving into darkness. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So, brother and sister, you have to learn how to adapt and not just adopt. Learn how to emulate, not just imitate, but do understand that the world advances on the strength of on the strength of an innovation that is imitated, right? So once a thing is, we say, don't reinvent the wheel. That's what that wisdom is saying. Don't reinvent it. And when you find someone invented the first time, you don't need to reinvent it. Hey, I'll use this. I use the same thing. That's what we have to learn more how to do. So, alhamdulillah, thank you so much for your patience with us on in this regard. And you're back, alhamdulillah. So, anything that you want to bring up before we close it out, Camila? Any other words or comments?
You know, with everything that you were sharing, the main thing that came to my mind is that, you know, the beauty of Imam Muhammad's leadership is that we are not held captive to language, right? Language can hold mindsets that hold it captive in so many ways that it limits your ability to live a full life. And so I've never, when I look at Al-Islam, I've always remember it being, it's a way of life. It's a way of life, right? Because the term religion has baggage. This idea, so sometimes we carry baggage with a particular term, and that baggage of that particular term can really, you know, structure ways that you think about Al-Islam. And really, Al-Islam is the way you live. It's the way you do business. Right. It's the way you develop friendships. It's the way you educate. It's the way you pray and acknowledge and reverence Allah. It's a way, right? And so that changes how you function in life. Period, because now you have this blueprint to operate from, that when I am being charitable, it's like, no, this is my behavior. I am taking on the behavior of being charitable. And it's not just this empty act of, I give money, I pay this, I do. No, it's a way of life to be charitable in many ways. And that frees your mind and it frees your life in so many ways, because, you know, acknowledging and showing an act of worship to Allah and how you serve humanity and how you serve this Lord that has given us so very much, that it shows up differently and it doesn't feel oppressive.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So we're out. You want to give us a word for a clear understanding, the website, and then we out.
Yes, so clearunderstanding.institute is the website. And, you know, if you're on the newsletter, then you'll get any updates as new material is being uploaded and accessed. We want to, as we continue to build out this platform and people understanding that we're here every Monday, you know, we want this to be a space of interaction. We want this to be a space of conversation. It helps us to know what are those hot points of conversation for the community, and then the imam can go into his lab to further create and expand on these ideas that are of interest, because we are here as a service to the community in order for you to gain a clearer understanding. So.
Inshallah. Shukran. All right, y'all. Take care. So inshallah, some of you will be connected on Wednesday morning. God's peace. Keep doing what you got to do. Love you, sweetie. Hug you soon.
Love you too, Baba.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.